How's it going, everybody? Too Spooky here, and today we're counting down 101 facts about Black Butler. When it comes to what information to expect within this video, we'll be covering everything that has to do with obscure or generally unknown information about the series, its history and production, the creator, the characters, and so much more. So if you end up learning something new, be sure to drop a like. Before we begin, take note that there is a spoiler warning for content found within both the anime and the manga. However, when it comes to spoilers involving major plot points, I will be sure to provide an extra warning within the video so that you can skip over it. Either way, proceed at your own risk. My pronunciation is also pretty awful, so warning for your ears too. Without any more delay, let's jump right into it. Number 1. Black Butler, otherwise known as Kuroshitsuji, began on September 16th of 2006 and is currently ongoing, serialized in the shonen magazine Monthly G Fantasy, which greatly surprised me when I first started reading it, as I was almost positive Black Butler was a shoujo or josei manga considering its reputation. But after reading it, I can certainly see the shonen elements present all throughout. The series is written and illustrated by Yana Toboso, and it was initially meant to be a rather short series, consisting of only 4 chapters. However, it quickly became immensely popular after only that single volume, which allowed Yana to expand the series into the long-form story it is today. As of July of 2023, the series currently has over 34 million copies in circulation, making it one of the best-selling manga series of all time. Number 2. Yana was born on January 24th of 1984 in Warabi, Saitama, Japan. She was raised as an only child by her mother and grandmother, with her father being completely out of the picture. Yana started drawing while in elementary school, and her art was often praised by her grandmother, who would encourage her to try and become a mangaka. That encouragement is what gave Yana her dream of eventually becoming one. And to achieve that dream, she would spend her teenage years through high school honing her craft as much as possible, being majorly influenced by mangaka like Mitsuru Adachi, who wrote series like Touch and H2, and also Rumiko Takahashi, who wrote series like Inuyasha and Ranma Half. Yana's family was very poor, which made things like going to university an impossibility. So knowing that her options were limited, she took the gamble and went all in on becoming a mangaka after graduating high school by submitting multiple manuscripts to various magazines and competitions, after being encouraged to do so by her mother. Her path to success would begin in 2003, when she entered a Square Enix manga competition, where her story would win the Advancement Award and catch the eye of a man named Takeshi Kuma, who will be known as Mr. K throughout the rest of the video. Mr. K would see Yana's potential and soon become her editor going forward, with Mr. K still being her editor to this very day. He would provide her with multiple books on how to better write manga, and overall help her perfect her skills. After participating in a few more competitions, Yana would receive her first serialization in 2005, and the rest is history. Number 3. Aside from Black Butler, Yana's various other works are as follows, although most of them are sadly not available on the internet. Yana's first known work was called Hello, which was the story she submitted to the Square Enix manga competition that caught the eye of Mr. K in 2003. The story followed 2 Grim Reapers called Koya and Ginji who were partnered together. Mr. K wasn't a big fan of the plot, so it was never turned into a serialization. However, the concept of Grim Reapers from Hello would go on to inspire the Grim Reaper dispatch from Black Butler, with the only major change to the concept being that the Grim Reapers now wore suits instead of military uniforms. A year later in 2004, Yana would submit another manuscript to the same competition, called Disguise, which followed a lord named Ao and his servant Kohaku. While unknown to Yana at the time, the concept of a lord and their servant would form the basis that would later become Black Butler, with Ciel being directly based on Ao. However, Kohaku and Sebastian notably have nothing in common. Disguise would end up winning 2nd place in the competition, which allowed Yana to submit a guest manga that would officially be published in Square Enix as her official debut. The manga she would end up publishing was a short story called Ninth, which followed 9 princes who were fighting each other over the throne. Following her debut, Yana would receive her first serialization in 2005 with Rust Blaster. which followed a human and a vampire that attended a school for both species, as a premonition for the end of the world was taking effect. Published in Monthly G Fantasy, Rust Blaster would end up being short-lived, with only 6 chapters published. However, not even 6 months after her first cancellation, Black Butler would officially debut. Like we mentioned before, it was meant to be a shorter series akin to Rust Blaster. However, the series quickly garnered immense popularity with readers, allowing Yana to transform it into a long-form serialization that is still ongoing to this very day. Number 4. From the previous fact, it might appear like Yana hasn't published many works throughout her almost 20-year career as a mangaka, as she was lucky enough to get a hit series early on. But as it turns out, Yana has actually published numerous other works in complete secret. To explain why that is, we need to go over the history of Yana's secret identity. Ya Now Rock. Growing up during the early age of the internet, Yana was able to share her passions in the form of doujinshi with various online communities via multiple forum pages like 2chan, along with her very own website, where she went by the pen name Ya Now Rock. For the few of you who don't know what a doujinshi or doujin is, it's basically the Japanese term for a self-published work. However, it's very common for doujinshi to also be derived from an existing story or property, essentially making most doujinshi akin to manga fanfiction.
Pause! What is that?
Yana was documented participating in various online communities under the name Ya Now Rock as early as 2002, creating doujinshi in fandoms such as the visual novel Togaino no Chi, the manga series Hoshin Engi, and the manga series Prince of Tennis, to name a few. But the key factor of these doujinshi being that Yana was, and still is, a massive fan of BL or yaoi, which, once again for the few people who aren't familiar with that term, it essentially means boys love, usually depicting scenarios of romantic or sexual relationships between men. So in addition to creating various BL doujinshi in multiple fandoms before her manga career took off, Yana also published various original BL doujinshi under her online pen name while working on Rust Blaster, and even during Black Butler's serialization. Considering most of these were completely self-published, they are quite hard to track down online or physically, but under her pen name, Yana also released the following stories. In 2005, she participated in 2 BL anthologies, called Mimi Paradise and Hana Shonen, while in 2006, she released Glamorous Lip, which collected 6 of her original BL stories into a single volume. After releasing Glamorous Lip, Black Butler would begin serialization later that year, and after the series began gaining popularity, it would be revealed online that Ya Now Rock was actually Yana Toboso, leading to a good amount of controversy and online scrutiny following the revelation. Namely because many of her BL stories involved shotokan, which is basically the male opposite to a lolita, aka young male children under 18. Which ultimately led to Yana ceasing to publish any BL works under Ya Now Rock ever again. However, it was later discovered by fans that Yana did publish a few BL works before and slightly after this controversy struck in 2006 and 2007 that went completely under the radar. As it turns out, Yana also released multiple stories in various other BL anthologies under the publisher Kosei Shobu, which would reveal some of Yana's works that went completely unmentioned online, and were otherwise considered previously lost media. Those lost stories have since been tracked down and scanned for hardcore fans to read online. So while only 2 of her works were well known to the public, Yana also has an entire catalog of BL short stories out there. But considering their controversial nature involving the underage, I think it's best they remain hard to find, and I would not recommend seeking them out for this reason. Additionally, it's been heavily rumored that Black Butler was originally meant to be a BL manga before Yana's editor stepped in, but this is completely false, and the series was intended to be a dark fantasy shonen from the start. That said, it is hard to ignore the subtle BL influences and similarities present throughout Black Butler from Yana's previous works. But regardless, I wanted to put this rumor to rest officially. Number 5. It would be pretty early into Black Butler's serialization that the series would be greenlit for an anime adaptation, with an official announcement coming in July of 2008, and the first episode debuting in October of the same year. Animated by A1 Pictures and directed by Toshiya Shinohara, the first season of the anime ran for 24 episodes. The anime was well received from the get-go and got many fans into the manga as a result. However, considering the anime was releasing early into the manga's run, only 8 of the 24 episodes in the first season are canon material, with the rest of the season introducing anime-only characters and an original storyline that even provides a full end to Ciel's story. So when it was revealed that a 12-episode second season was coming in July of 2010, this time directed by Hirofumi Ogura, and following 2 completely new characters named Alois and Claude, a lot of fans were really confused. But once the first episode officially dropped, it was revealed that Ciel and Sebastian were still very much part of the story, contrary to what the ending of Season 1 implied. That said, all of Season 2 is an anime original story, and none of it is considered canon to the manga in any way. Regardless of that, the second season was still well received within the Black Butler fandom, even if many fans don't look back at it very fondly anymore. It wouldn't be until January of 2014 that a third season would be announced, called Black Butler Book of Circus, which was going to be 10 episodes long and fully adapting the circus arc from the manga. Once again animated by A1 Pictures, and this time directed by Noriyuki Abe. Book of Circus also acted as a soft reboot for the series, considering it directly follows the manga, rather than continuing anything that occurred during the non-canon events of Seasons 1 and 2, which led many anime-only fans to be extremely confused, because, big spoiler alert for Season 2 here, Ciel becomes a demon at the end of Season 2. And now suddenly in Book of Circus he just isn't a demon anymore? Among many other plot points from Seasons 1 and 2 being completely ignored all throughout, it really cemented Book of Circus as its own thing compared to the first 2 seasons. But in reality, this was just an actual faithful adaptation to the manga, unlike the other 2, leading to Book of Circus being much more well received all across the board, and convincing many more anime-only fans to check out the manga. Following the success of Book of Circus, a 2-episode OVA titled Black Butler Book of Murder was screened in Japanese theaters on October 25th and November 14th of 2014. From the same animation studio and director of Book of Circus, Book of Murder adapted the Phantom Hive Manor murders arc from the manga, essentially continuing the events that occurred directly after Book of Circus. Much like the previous season, Book of Murder was also very well received by new and existing fans alike. The only criticism these days being that Book of Murder is notoriously hard to find, as it's currently no longer available on streaming services, forcing people to either buy the Blu-rays or to put on an eye patch like Ciel and yayo if you catch my drift. A year later, in October of 2015, it was announced that the series was going to have a feature-length animated movie from the same studio and director as the previous 2 adaptations, that was later revealed to be titled Black Butler Book of the Atlantic, which fully adapts the luxury liner arc from the manga and takes place directly after the events of Book of Murder. The film officially debuted in Japanese theaters on January 21st of 2017, and later screened within the United States and Canada as well, being generally well received just like the other recent adaptations. Following Book of the Atlantic, any news of future Black Butler animation projects would go completely silent. And with the manga's pacing grinding to a halt in recent years, the greater parts of the Black Butler fandom were pretty much on life support. That is, until it was finally announced 6 years later at Anime Expo 2023 that a 4th season of the anime was in production, which will be debuting on April 13th in the year of our Lord, 2024. This season of the anime will be adapting the public school arc from the manga, and takes place directly after the events of Book of the Atlantic. Produced by Studio Cloverworks, which is the rebranded A1 Pictures, and directed by Kenjiro Okada, it's currently unknown how much of the original cast will be returning, but Ciel and Sebastian's original voice actors will be returning at the very least. Number 6. On January 18th of 2014, a Black Butler live-action film was released. Directed by Kentaro Otani and Keiichi Sato, starring Hiro Mizushima as Sebastian, and Ayami Goriki as Earl Kiyohara Genpo. Yeah, Ciel isn't in this movie. In fact, the film takes place in the year 2020 in some unnamed Eastern country, and doesn't follow the original manga at all, aside from a few clear inspirations. Because of that, as you can probably guess, the film wasn't very well received. And out of every Black Butler project, this is the only one that Yana didn't have any involvement in, which clearly shows.
That's gotta be racist, there's no way.
I actually have a series on this channel called Manga vs. Movie, where we go in depth and compare manga to their live action film counterparts. And the Black Butler film is one that I plan on covering in the future, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Number 7. It's pretty common in Japan for successful manga series to have what are known as 2.5D stage adaptations, which are generally musical plays depicting characters from their respective series, sometimes adapting existing storylines or featuring new ones. Due to Black Butler's success, the series has so far had 6 different stage adaptations, the various adaptations running from 2009 all the way up to the most recent, which ran during 2021, which the fandom refers to as Kuromyu, a mixture of Kuroshitsuji and musical. 2 of the musicals feature original storylines, while the other 4 are direct adaptations from the manga. While each variation has been rated differently by fans, each one has been generally well received over the years. The YouTuber Pocket Leaves has a pretty good video going in depth with each of the different plays and their storylines, so I'll put a link to that video in the description if you want to learn more. Number 8. Black Butler has also had one video game released, which was called Kuroshitsuji, Phantom, and Ghost, which released only in Japan for the Nintendo DS on March 19th of 2009. The game features an original storyline that takes place between chapters 13 and 14 within the manga, where the Phantom Hive household members were sent to the Rose Manor on behalf of the Queen, because of supposed ghost sightings that have recently been taking place on the property, the story and characters of which were both overseen by Yana herself. The game was essentially a choose-your-own-adventure game, with the addition of solving puzzles and minigames to progress throughout the story. While it was only available in Japan, an unofficial English translation of the game was released for fans across the world to enjoy.
Number 9.
In the early stages of production, the series was simply a story about a mysterious butler as the protagonist. At that point, it wasn't set in England, and the butler character didn't even have a name, instead only being referred to as the Butler. The decision to set the story in Victorian England came about when the chief editor of Monthly G Fantasy and Mr. K advised Yana to use that setting, as they felt her butler concept would fit well in a time period and environment where butlers were commonplace. Once Yana decided to go forward with this setting, the 2 editors also advised her to give the butler a name, to which Yana impulsively decided on the name Sebastian, which was taken from the 1974 anime Heidi, Girl of the Alps, as the character named Sebastian in that series was also a butler, and Yana felt that since the name Sebastian was commonly associated with butlers in Japan as a result of that series' popularity, new readers would instantly know what kind of character her protagonist was, additionally deciding on the last name Michaelis by deriving it from the Japanese word makari, which means repayment, to allude to his contract with Ciel. Number 10. The series was also named by Mr. K. However, before the title Black Butler was decided upon, a few of the other names considered were Lord Butler, Butler equals slave, the Outcast Butler, the Self-Destructive Butler, Reduced to Butlerdom, and finally, a Vile Worm of a Butler. Number 11. The main issue with setting the story in 19th century England was the fact that Yana and the rest of her team had virtually no knowledge of the Victorian era whatsoever, meaning all of them had to do tons of research on everything from that time period to make the manga historically accurate. For the most part at least. As she also makes it a point to incorporate anachronistic elements all throughout the story to reiterate the fact that it's a fantasy manga at the end of the day. Examples being including elements like idol groups and modern machinery for the Grim Reapers. Although, in my opinion, the fact that there are demons and Grim Reapers should be enough to illustrate the fantasy aspect by itself, but I digress. Because Yana and her team do so much research, she is constantly learning new things about that era and is almost always surrounded by piles of books. But because the information she learns is also quite fun and interesting to her, Yana continually makes it a point to incorporate as many fun aspects of that time period into the manga as often as possible. Because of that, Black Butler has countless elements that are 100% accurate to the time period. And with the continued success of the manga, Yana was also able to acquire an official history consultant to make sure things stay as historically accurate as possible outside of the fantasy elements. Number 12. Before he was officially named Ciel Phantom Hive, Yana also considered giving him numerous other names, those being Celeste, Estelle, Angel, Angelo Fate, Celesta, Walter, Arthur, Sense, Lapis, Lazulite, and Rain, whereas potential surnames included Beehive, Faust, Ghost, Ghost Hive, and Phantom. Number 13. Aside from the first volume selling out all across Japan with its initial release, Yana knew that Black Butler was truly popular once she was approached about the creation of a drama CD not even a year into the series' production. While drama CDs as a whole have kind of disappeared in recent years due to audio streaming services, drama CDs alongside manga and anime were quite popular in Japan for decades, so having a CD adaptation of Black Butler so early into the series' production was quite the feat. It would end up being developed by Frontier Works and released on August 10th of 2007, featuring many characters and events from the first 2 volumes, with only minor differences and a few original story elements. A second drama CD would end up releasing a little over a year later on November 26th of 2008, to market alongside the release of the anime, this time developed by Aniplex. The second drama CD featured an entirely original story about Ciel and Lao's first meeting, since it was never revealed in the manga at that point. Number 14. According to Mr. K, there were talks about an animated movie for Black Butler all the way back during the serialization of the Circus arc, following the massive success of Season 1 of the anime. However, said movie never ended up happening, and Season 2 ended up being greenlit instead. But because Yana and her staff were excited about the concept of getting an animated movie, they decided they wanted to write an arc that would be just like a movie in itself, which is how the idea of the luxury liner arc came to be, basing it off the idea of a typical Hollywood disaster film. So almost a decade later, when the luxury liner arc eventually received an animated film in the form of Book of the Atlantic, you could say that everything came full circle. Number 15. In regards to foreshadowing towards plot points and character profiles, Yana has mentioned that she started to drop little bits of foreshadowing as early as Volume 1. However, because Black Butler was only meant to be a 4-chapter series, she didn't add very much. But once Black Butler was given the green light for a few more arcs, she started adding more examples of foreshadowing bit by bit. However, she notably avoided adding any large pieces of foreshadowing just in case the series ended abruptly, as she felt it would be a major disappointment to fans to question what something meant, and then never see a payoff for it if the manga was axed. But with little pieces of foreshadowing that didn't necessarily need a payoff, she felt it would be okay to drop some hints. But after getting confirmation that the series was going to be continuing for the long term after the Indian Butler arc, she started adding much more foreshadowing in terms of things like Elizabeth being a prodigy with a sword and even Ciel's big twist. Number 16. Piggybacking off the previous fact, Yana has also gone on record to say that she fully expected the series to end after Volume 3 with the conclusion of the Red Butler arc, and that the series getting picked up for a second arc at all was a complete surprise in itself. Because of that, when it comes to the design of the physical releases, she said had she known the series would have continued for more than 10 volumes, she wouldn't have used Roman numerals to number them, as after 10, each of the following numerals takes up way too much space. On that note, the November 2020 issue of Monthly G Fantasy included a sticker sheet for volumes 1 through 30, with the normal numbering system for those who weren't a fan of the Roman numerals on their volumes. Number 17. Being such a popular series, it's no secret that Black Butler has had pretty much every type of officially licensed merch imaginable. But some of the most unique pieces of merch are this 2-piece swimsuit released by Hot Topic 8 years ago that was based on Ciel's main outfit. I don't really know why, I just felt compelled to share its existence with everyone watching this video. But aside from that, the series has also had an official Sebastian Coco Robo vacuum released, so you can have your very own butler cleaning up the house while you're away. Number 18. Yana is unfortunately known to suffer from SS, otherwise known as Sebastian schizophrenia, as she has mentioned numerous times how much she struggles to draw him. Unlike all her other characters, Yana draws Sebastian in a very specific order, which is sketch, outline, hair, nose, mouth, and eyes. And she usually separates the pages that Sebastian appears in from the ones where he doesn't, so that she can focus on a Sebastian-only day where she draws him exclusively. Since drawing him usually takes much longer than every other character, and in chapters where Sebastian is very prevalent, Yana is only able to complete about half as many pages as the other chapters where he appears less. Her biggest struggle with drawing his character being making him appear cool enough. Number 19. Speaking of how Yana draws characters, she likes to apply the stereotype of genetics that sons take after their mothers and daughters after their fathers in appearance for her character designs, which is why Ciel looks similar to his mother Rachel, and other characters like Elizabeth and Edward look similar to their father Alexis and mother Frances respectively. Number 20. So far, there have been 2 anthologies released for the series, titled Rainbow Butler 1 and Rainbow Butler 2. The first of which released on March 27th of 2009, with the second volume releasing a year later on August 27th of 2010. Each one features various Black Butler related one-shot stories by other mangaka, along with various color illustrations to show off the many different art styles. Sadly, these 2 anthologies have only been released in Japan. Number 21. When it comes to Season 2, when the anime was first announced, A1 Pictures stated that the new season was going to focus entirely on Alois and Claude, following the definitive ending of Season 1. However, this statement was meant to be a misdirection towards fans of the series, so that when they actually watched the first episode of Season 2 and saw that Ciel and Sebastian were still very much around, they would be met with utter excitement and surprise. That said, when A1 Pictures first made this announcement about the lack of Ciel and Sebastian, fans didn't exactly take it very well. Yana went on to say that when the announcement for Season 2 first occurred, she received a lot of negative messages from fans about the absence of Ciel and Sebastian. But according to her, she fully expected this kind of reaction, because this announcement was completely intentional on her and the producer's part. Although this isn't always the case for anime adaptations, Yana was allowed to provide a good deal of input towards the productions of Seasons 1 and 2 as the creator of the series. Considering the series wasn't very far along in the manga at the time of Season 1's production, the director wanted to provide a conclusion to Ciel's revenge, which Yana directly approved of. However, considering this would mark a definitive ending for the anime, when Yana was approached with the possibility of a Season 2 due to the overwhelming popularity of the first season, she gave the condition that the finale of Season 1 must not be reset. This led to long debates between Yana and the production staff on how exactly they could go about showing Ciel and Sebastian again without contradicting the original ending. So after a lot of back and forth, it was eventually decided that a new pair of rivals needed to be created. To which Yana worked together with staff to create Alois and Claude along with their story in relation to Ciel and Sebastian for about half a year to get it right, with the intention of tricking fans with the announcement of a new pair as a way of shocking fans with the unexpected return of Ciel and Sebastian when they actually watched the show. Needless to say, the initial negative reaction was a little more than they anticipated, but once fans realized that the announcement was a trick, the backlash significantly died down. Number 22. To continue on about Season 2, the ending certainly made a lasting impression with, spoiler alert, Ciel becoming a demon, only for that anime original ending to be completely ignored with Book of Circus, as Ciel never became a demon in the manga. That said, before Book of Circus was greenlit, it was up in the air if Season 3 of Black Butler would ever happen. And if it did, would it continue with the anime's original ending and follow Ciel as a demon? Shortly after the final episode of Season 2 aired, Yana was asked in an interview what Season 3 might look like if it ends up happening, to which Yana stated that there wasn't going to be a continuation of Season 2, which ended up being correct. However, in an alternate timeline, if there was a Season 3 of Black Butler that followed the ending of Season 2, Yana believes it would turn out much like the 1994 film, Interview with the Vampire, as the character Claudia from that movie is turned into a vampire at a young age, and therefore only matures mentally rather than physically. So Season 3 of Black Butler likely would have taken place many years into the future, showing Ciel's struggle as a mature adult in a child's body. Number 23. Apparently Sebastian views all humans as grasshoppers. So generally speaking, he doesn't really have any opinions about any individual person outside of just viewing them as separate grasshoppers. As in, Finian would be Grasshopper A, Mayrin Grasshopper B, etc. That said, in the instances where he's been genuinely impressed with a person's abilities, such as with Agni and Elizabeth, he's merely admitting that they're quite impressive. For a grasshopper, that is. Number 24. Mayrin's favorite rifle is a Mosin Nagant, and she additionally carries 2 Luger P08 pistols. Yana acquired replicas of both weapons at the office so she could better draw them for reference, and was surprised to find how big and heavy they were. Because of this, she now visualizes Mei Rin absolutely shredded with a six-pack, as being able to run around at high speeds in the mountains with such heavy weapons would be hard work. Number 25. Elizabeth and her slightly pushy demeanor was inspired from Alice Liddell, the girl who also inspired the character Alice from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. In addition to that, Yana always draws Elizabeth with the poem, All in the Golden Afternoon, in mind, as she believes Elizabeth represents all of the bright elements of England from that time period. Her only regret is that Yana wishes she had named her something less stereotypical. Number 26. In March of 2009, Yana was planning out her cover illustration for Monthly G Fantasy, planning to have Sebastian and Lau side by side. However, she then came to the realization that Lau probably doesn't even know Sebastian's name, as he legitimately has zero interest in him or the other servants, and only has interest in Ciel. Then deciding to draw Ciel in between Lau and Sebastian to act as a buffer between the two. Number 27. According to the character guidebook, Finian's favorite food is omu rice, simply due to the fact that Sebastian always decorates it with a little flag for him. He's also a big fan of deep-fried foods, like deep-fried buns for instance. And also, he's a big fan of donuts. Number 28. Arthur Conan Doyle is supposed to be Black Butler's version of the real-life Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is famous for being the writer behind Sherlock Holmes. Basically implying that the entire murder mystery that took place at the Phantom Hive Manor was the direct inspiration for Arthur to create Sherlock, since he could never tell the true events of what occurred that fateful night. Number 29. Although we don't know a thing about Sebastian's past in the manga, the anime gave us a small taste of his past endeavors. Non-canonically, of course. Apparently, in the past, Sebastian mentioned how he used to know an ancient Egyptian mummy when they were alive. The mummy in question was Smenkhade, a previous pharaoh, insinuating Sebastian might have had something to do with their rule. And Sebastian later made the claim that he himself was responsible for spreading the Black Death across Europe.
It was I who was responsible for the outbreak of the Black Death in Europe.
Meaning Sebastian is technically single-handedly responsible for killing half of Europe's entire population. Upwards of 50 million people. Genuinely? I think we need to start considering Sebastian whenever someone talks about power-scaling anime characters, because this dude has one of the highest kill counts ever, and he barely even tried. Low-key, you'd think the Grim Reapers would fucking hate him for how much work he put them through during the 14th century. This dude should be number 1 on their most wanted list. Number 30. In various scenes throughout the manga, Yana has implemented the Japanese language of flowers to illustrate the deeper meaning or emotions occurring within their respective scenes. 2 examples being the use of foxgloves when Ciel recruits Snake, as they're meant to represent insincerity, and the use of mimosas in a scene with Soma and Ciel as they represent friendship, among many other examples all throughout the manga. Number 31. While Sebastian loves cats, he isn't able to keep them in the house because of Ciel's allergy. Although, as listed in the character guide, this allergy is apparently irrelevant, as even if Ciel didn't have this allergy, he still wouldn't allow cats in the house simply because he wouldn't want to do something that would please Sebastian. On top of that, dogs and horses are Ciel's favorite animals, and horseback riding is one of his favorite activities. Number 32. When initially designing Mei Rin, Yana chose to give her a headdress with her maid outfit, because she wasn't a fan of the hats that Victorian-era maids used to wear. However, in recent times, she's come around to the look of those old hats, and now wishes she would have given one to Mei Rin to better fit the time period. Number 33. According to the character guidebook, 80% of what Bard cooks is completely burnt, while the remaining 20% is basically poison. Number 34. Frances never made an official debut in the original anime outside of a single photograph, and she wouldn't make any other appearances until Book of the Atlantic, where she plays a prominent role within the story. Yana always pictured Frances with blonde hair. However, the character designers for the anime wanted to give her hair a grayish color to illustrate her Phantom Hive lineage as Vincent's sister. Thinking it ended up making her look much cooler than she originally envisioned, Yana agreed to this change, and now her grayish hair is considered canon. Number 35. On the average day, Sebastian's schedule looks a little something like this. 5:50 a.m. Getting up and getting dressed. 6 a.m. preparing the master's breakfast, ironing the newspapers, and instructing the staff. 8:30 a.m., waking up the master with early morning tea, assisting with getting the master ready and serving breakfast. 9:30 a.m., the master's breakfast. 10:30 a.m., start of the master's daily plan, which includes work, learning, etc., polishing the silverware, and beginning lunch preparations. 12:30 p.m., the master's lunch. 2 p.m., preparations for the afternoon tea. 3:30 p.m., the master's afternoon tea. 6 p.m., preparations for dinner. 8 p.m., the master's dinner. 9 p.m., cleaning up the dinner leftovers and polishing the silverware once again. 10 p.m., getting the master ready for bed, which includes bathing, getting changed, etc. 11 p.m., putting the master to bed. 12 a.m., locking the rooms, extinguishing the chimney fire, checking the premises, and then preparations for breakfast. 2 a.m., end of work. It's not really known what Sebastian does from 2 a.m. to 5:50 a.m. because demons don't actually need to sleep, but I suppose Sebastian could be pretending to sleep. But maybe this is when he squeezes in the time to hang out with all the local cats. Number 36. When it came to the Emerald Witch arc, Yana's assistants were pretty unhappy with her, because they all really enjoyed drawing all the elegant elements of Ciel and Sebastian's lifestyle, like chandeliers, ballrooms, afternoon tea, etc. As the last few arcs had been so full of zombies that they haven't gotten to draw much of those decadent pieces for a while. Additionally being upset about the sheer lack of handsome dudes present throughout the Emerald Witch arc, as they claimed that nobody wants to look at tough female soldiers in their late 20s. Which, excuse you! I would very much like to look at tough female soldiers in their late 20s, so speak for yourself, punks. But according to Yana, her reason for making the villagers of Wolfschlucht almost all female was because in the previous public school arc, pretty much every character was male, and Yana wanted to draw more women again. Following her assistants' complaints, Yana assured them that the following arcs would contain much more of what they're missing, which completely reinvigorated their spirits, and Yana wasn't exactly lying either. Number 37. Due to their similar age, Finian is the one teaching Snake how to read and write, while Sebastian is the one who taught Finian previously. Generally speaking, the literacy rate in Victorian England was relatively low, so Snake never had to learn nor got the chance to learn in the past. But now that he's the footman of a noble family, he is required to learn. Number 38. If it wasn't blatantly obvious, the Campania is directly based on the Titanic, as both shared their maiden voyage, identical captains, both struck an iceberg, and Grelle and Knox even reenacted the famous scene from the Titanic movie if those other elements weren't enough to convince you. Number 39. The founder of the Aurora Society, Ryan Stoker, was named after Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula. Additionally, both Ryan and Bram died on the same day, which was April 20th. Number 40. Sebastian's hair was initially a bit different, as in the early drafts, his hair was parted with more of a 7:3 ratio. But because Mr. K and her assistants weren't a fan of the hairstyle, Yana had to compromise and make it a middle part. She also wanted to tousle his hair whenever his demon form was shown, but with the few glimpses we've got of Sebastian's demon form, I think hairstyle became the least of her design ideas. Additionally, Sebastian's eyes were modeled after Irish actor Stuart Townsend's. Number 41. Speaking of Sebastian's existence as a demon, Yana has gone on record to say that she will never reveal Sebastian's true nature, or go in depth about demons within the story. Within the anime, however, there were multiple demons present, and even angels for that matter, but within the manga, Sebastian is still the only demon we've met. And outside of the Grim Reapers, he's also the only supernatural creature present. That's actually real, at least.
Why you bully me?
Her reason for keeping the origin of demons a mystery is because, in her opinion, it isn't relevant to the story, and all you need to know about Sebastian is that he's one hell of a butler. So based on that, it's pretty likely you won't be seeing any other demons within the Black Butler manga, at least for the foreseeable future. That said, the one aspect of the demon world we have seen is that apparently demons have pets, which are essentially xenomorphs. Number 42. In episode 4 of the anime Kiss Him, Not Me, the character Shima can be seen cosplaying Sebastian. However, they changed the name of the series from Black Butler to Grey Butler to avoid copyright. Number 43. Bard is meant to be around 40 years old according to Yana, with no specific age decided upon. However, she feels she wasn't able to accurately draw him in a way that reflects his age early on, which gave many fans the impression that he's a lot younger than he actually is. Although, as her style has progressed over the years, she believes she's finally able to draw him as initially intended. Number 44. Grelle's gender has always been a major point of contention, especially because conversation about transgenderism and gender itself wasn't as prevalent back in the 2000s as it is today. But even with much more conversation on these topics happening in today's landscape, Grelle's gender is still heavily debated upon even now, which is namely because of how Grelle was portrayed early on in both the anime and manga, Yana's ignorance on the topic early on in her career, along with issues in various translations in regards to how Grelle refers to herself. But as far as I could tell throughout my research, the general consensus is that Grelle is a transgender woman, with their pronouns being she, her. But for a little background on how I, and most others, have reached this conclusion, we gotta go back to the beginning. Early on, Grelle was mostly treated as a comic relief character, especially in the anime, and it was very common for Grelle to refer to themselves with he/him pronouns. And this was universal within various translations of the anime, various translations of the manga, and even some translations of the character guidebook, which listed Grelle as, and I quote, an effeminate transvestite homosexual, leading many fans at the time to believe that Grelle was just a really feminine man. And considering Mr. K even instructed Yana to make Grelle's character much more flamboyant during their initial conception, which is a very common trope amongst stereotypical gay characters, and Yana herself stating that Grelle is a man but has the heart of a maiden, it only solidified this belief for many people. However, as Yana educated herself on the topic of gender over the years, she ended up making official changes to Grelle's pronouns within the manga, and now refers to Grelle as she, her in interviews as well. And considering Grelle is Yana's character, the universal belief is that whatever pronouns Yana has given to Grelle is what she should be referred to as. And the main point of contention around Grelle's gender goes back to how Grelle was referred to as a man in the past versus being referred to as a woman now. But regardless, I think it's pretty obvious that Grelle is a transgender woman, and if Yana thinks so too, I believe we should all respect that, and shouldn't hold someone's past ignorance against them either. Number 45. The actor who portrayed Sebastian in the live-action film, Hiro Mizushima, went through 4 months of action training to prepare for the role, all while taking on extreme dieting to reach a body weight that resembled Sebastian's physicality, ending up at only 110 pounds at the beginning of filming. Number 46. During the anime Anohana, there are 2 episodes that feature posters of Black Butler characters in the background, along with many other popular anime from that time period. Number 47. Ronald Knox had multiple different design concepts that were scrapped before his current design was approved. However, one of those scrapped concepts would end up becoming the design for Chesslock, which Yana was very pleased about because she was a big fan of that particular design and was grateful she got to reuse it. The only real difference between the Knox version and Chesslock's version is that Knox's version would have also had big glasses, but apparently the big glasses also made him look too fancy, so those were also rejected for future concepts. Number 48. When watching the original anime, Yana was so impressed with Tatsuhisa Suzuki's portrayal as the Viscount of Druid that she decided to take influence from his performance and make the Viscount a reoccurring character within the manga. Number 49. Out of all the characters in the series, we only know the birthdays of a few, aside from those who are based on real people, of course. The characters' birth dates we do know are Ciel's, which is December 14th of 1875, Mally, Beast's real name, which is May 22nd of 1864, Snake's, which is March 15th of 1871, Agni's, which is August 24th of 1858, Vincent's birthday is June 13th of 1851, Joker's, which is April 2nd of 1863, Baron Kelvin's birthday was August 29th of 1839, and finally Eloise's, which is November 5th of 1874. The reason so many characters' birthdays remain unknown is because Yana has been unable to decide when most character birthdays should be, as in her opinion, birth dates hold significant meaning towards a person's image, and she would want each character's birthday to reflect their personalities accurately. But actually deciding those dates has been a challenge for her, so she's just chosen to leave most of them out altogether. That said, she still gets asked about characters' birthdays frequently, and outside of the characters I've listed, Yana reiterates that any other character birthday you see online is fake and shouldn't be taken at face value. Number 50. To commemorate the 100th chapter of the manga, a popularity poll was held to figure out the most popular characters in the series, the top 6 of which were dubbed the Devil Six. Charles Gray came in 6th place with 348 votes, Vincent Phantomhive came in 5th place with 461 votes, Grelle Sutcliffe came in 4th place with 779 votes, Undertaker came in 3rd place with 1,284 votes, Ciel Phantomhive came in 2nd place with 3,158 votes, and you probably guessed it, Sebastian Michaelis came in 1st place with 4,014 votes.
Watch closely, I'll show you something.
Good morning, young master. Looking extra tired, I see. Well, no matter. Good thing we have today's G Fuel flavor, Cherry Limeade, to wake you right up. Oh, what's that? You want to acquire some G Fuel of your own? The zero sugar energy formula that will keep you running the entire day with no crashes? Excuse you, I'm trying to write an ad here. Well, with code 2SPOOKY at checkout, you can get anywhere from 10 to 30% off your entire order. That sounds like a great deal to me. But alas, I am just merely one hell of a YouTuber.
Number 51. In the early renditions of his character, Soma's mother was going to be an English white woman, which would have given Soma white skin as a result. However, this idea was scrapped before his character debuted. Additionally, one of Yana's assistants is a massive fan of ethnic clothing, and therefore designs pretty much all of Soma's clothing within the manga, outside of the headpieces and patterns which are done by Yana herself. Number 52. Daisuke Ono, the Japanese voice actor for Sebastian, has been playing the character for well over a decade at this point. And in the early adaptations of the series, Daisuke was told time and time again to remove as much emotion from Sebastian as possible while playing him, much to his dismay. However, when it finally came to Book of the Atlantic, both Yana and the director wanted him to finally show as much emotion as possible for the scenes that show Sebastian's struggle against the Undertaker. Daisuke has mentioned in interviews that finally getting to release all that pent-up emotion over the course of all these years felt like a real reward, and it's brought out the side of Sebastian he's been waiting for ever since he started playing him. Number 53. We mentioned earlier that in the first drama CD adaptation of Black Butler, minor changes were made, but it was otherwise a very faithful adaptation. Well, Yana's personal favorite change in that adaptation would be that in the scene where Sebastian pulls away the tablecloth to hide the wine stains, he instead uses his demon super speed to guzzle all the wine before anyone notices. Number 54. As far as Angelina, The Undertaker, and Grelle's conception goes, the story is a little something like this. After it was decided that Black Butler was getting additional arcs, Yana decided that tackling the case of Jack the Ripper was perfect for the topic of the following arc, as the notorious case is one of the most popular subjects of the Victorian era, and the question of if Sebastian would be able to catch the killer was the main focus. Except, Yana had the interesting idea of putting a little twist on it after researching the case on her own, that being making Jack the Ripper a woman. While the actual culprit has never been identified, it's always been profiled to be that of a man, and presenting the idea of Jack the Ripper being a woman was meant to challenge everyone's perception of the murderer. However, G-Fantasy weren't particularly happy about the idea at first, and urged Yana to make the culprit a male character instead. Since their magazine was primarily marketed under the shonen genre, they figured a male antagonist would be more digestible for readers, further urging her to create this foil to Sebastian in the form of a silver-haired, handsome man. As you can probably guess, this silver-haired, handsome man would become the Undertaker. But their role as the antagonistic foil to Sebastian would take a back seat until a later arc. Instead, Yana insisted on Jack the Ripper being a woman, which is how Angelina's character was born. But to make G-Fantasy happy, she made a bit of a compromise, that being the introduction of Grelle. As Grelle may also be a woman, but for most of the arc, she would be disguised as a male butler, whose incompetence would act as the foil to Sebastian as the perfect butler, before her reveal as a Grim Reaper, and as an additional killer in the Jack the Ripper case. Number 55. In addition to the last fact, Fred Aberline is based on real-life police officer Frederick Aberline, who also worked on investigating the Jack the Ripper murders. Number 56. A widely accepted theory is that Ciel's father Vincent and Sebastian look extremely similar because when Ciel was first making his contract with the demon, they took on a form that would be most comforting and appropriate for Ciel's needs, which is why it appears so similar to Vincent's appearance, as the most comforting form for Ciel would likely be that of his own father. Yana has even stated that Vincent and Sebastian's similar appearance is completely intentional. However, she further stated that she would never elaborate on the reason for this similarity within the main story, and because of this, she refuses to draw the two of them side by side. Number 57. In addition to the last fact, when it comes to Vincent's appearance, you might have noticed that Vincent appears a bit different in each of the various flashbacks that depict him. This is also completely intentional, and the reason for it is that Yana wanted to convey how different characters viewed Vincent in their minds. Examples being, Ciel viewed him as a gentle father, Angelina viewed him as the kind man that she loved, but desperately wanted to forget. Tanaka viewed him as Earl Phantomhive, the evil nobleman, and Kelvin viewed him as someone who appears kind on the outside, but internally, they are filled with evil. Queen Victoria actually loved curry in real life, which is partially why Yana wanted to bring Indian characters and the concept of the Indian butler arc into the manga after researching it, as the queen apparently had 2 Indian chefs employed at her estate to make her authentic curry pretty regularly. Number 59. In terms of what Yana is like as a person, she has described herself as a shy, introverted person who loves cats, the color black, hats, vampires, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and rock music. Some of her favorite bands or musical artists include Slipknot, Linkin Park, Evanescence, Gokt or Gasi KT, Hyde, Tommy Heavenly Six, Overworld, Sid, Lark and Cell, Kalafina, and Danny Elfman. Number 60. In addition to the last fact, because Yana is so introverted, she rarely attends any Black Butler related events, but when she does, she goes incognito so nobody knows she's there. Yana cites the main reason for her avoidance of public events as the only official autograph session she's held for the release of Volume 1. Apparently at this fan meetup, she was so beyond nervous about talking to the fans that she sped through the autographs as quickly as possible, which made her reflect on how helpless she is in public, and since then, she lives life like a mole. Number 61. In February of 2017, Black Butler had a collab with the Japanese mobile puzzle game Yume 100, where various characters from Book of the Atlantic were added to the game, such as Undertaker, Snake, Ronald, Grelle, and Sebastian. With Undertaker in particular, this game actually revealed a little something about them that we didn't know before. In preparation for the collaboration, Yana provided the artists of the game with character sheets for all the characters that would be appearing. We know that Undertaker has a nasty scar on his face and neck, but apparently he also has other scars across his body that we'd never seen before. And because Undertaker would be featured in various outfits that would show a little more of his body than what we were shown in the manga, particularly his lower legs, Yana made sure to point out where all of Undertaker's scars were in the art to reflect his appearance accurately, revealing that Undertaker also has a couple scars on each of his shins. The first collaboration ended up being a success, and Black Butler has since had 2 other collaborations with Yume 100 featuring even more characters from the series. Number 62. Black Butler has also collaborated with another mobile game, that being the role-playing game Sinnoh Alice, which took place in December of 2021 and featured more characters from Book of the Atlantic, this time being Ciel, Sebastian, Undertaker, Grelle, and Elizabeth. Number 63. According to the inner cover of Volume 24, if Sebastian were a gambler, he would bankrupt casinos all across the world. Because although he doesn't technically cheat, his demon powers allow him to see his opponent's cards. Number 64. During the Black Butler musical, The Most Beautiful Death in the World, Bard mentions that he has a niece that reminds him of Ciel, as Ciel was dressed in drag wearing a pink dress when he made this comment. Bard's actual backstory wouldn't be released until many years after this play debuted, and this niece has yet to be mentioned. So it's unknown if Bard actually has a niece within the main story, but this small comment implies that it's possible he does. Number 65. Even though she is one of the most popular characters in the series, Grelle has yet to be featured on any of the volume covers. However, Yana has mentioned that Grelle will likely get her own volume cover at some point in the future. And on top of that, within the August 2011 edition of Monthly G Fantasy, an all-red slipcover for Volume 12 was featured in the magazine, depicting Grelle on the cover instead of Nox. Number 66. Ciel and Sebastian's Faustian contract is roughly based on the Seal of Solomon, and the interesting part would be that if you look closer, the reverse pentagram featured in their contract has various words and symbols that accurately reflect the conditions of their contract visibly when you look deeper into their meanings. Examples being, Bellany, put forth thy might and discover unto me the knowledge and power in thy keep. Hallie, answer in the inward silence all of my questions without fail. Haliza, assume and show forth unto me thy form of divine perfection. And so on. Number 67. Yukito Niishi, who played Ciel in the second Black Butler musical, asked Yana to name his new pet ferret when he got to meet her, to which Yana gave it the name Mer, which means sea in French. Yana decided on this name because since Yukito was playing Ciel, and Ciel means sky in French, she felt it would be an appropriate namesake. Number 68. The character Joanne Harcourt was originally only going to appear in a single scene. However, they quickly became a very popular character among Yana's assistants, who would regularly bring up how cute they were. Additionally, Joanne quickly became one of Mr. K's favorite characters, who therefore encouraged Yana to add them back into the manga, and even pushed for them to be on the cover of Volume 16, even though Yana chose Soma instead. Because of this encouragement from Mr. K and her assistants, Yana made Joanne a reoccurring character throughout the public school arc, and even had them return in various story arcs to follow. Number 69. In terms of Sebastian's type, he doesn't exactly have one. As according to Yana, Sebastian would get with anybody regardless of age or appearance so long as it was in order. Regardless of age?
FBI, open up!
But generally speaking, he does prefer the individuals he's accompanying to have more of a beautiful outward appearance, if he has no choice but to be seen with them anyway. The thing Sebastian actually cares about in regards to preferences is the taste of someone's soul. As in Ciel's case, he's manipulating his soul in order to transform it into a delicacy, the likes of which he's never tasted before. So you could say, Sebastian is really only looking for his soulmate. Number 70. Considering Yana isn't a fan of sports, like at all, she found herself in a bit of a pickle when it came time to research cricket for the big game during the public school arc, as her history consultant explained that cricket tournaments were a staple of elite colleges during that time period. Yana studied a lot of books on the subject to prepare, but felt she needed to experience it in person to really understand how the game worked, as she could not accurately picture what was being described. The only issue was that cricket is a very unknown sport within Japan, so Yana and Mr. K had to scour the nation to find any sort of cricket games taking place, eventually coming across the Japan Cricket Association, who was happy to not only demonstrate the game in person and show off the various techniques, but also answer all of Yana's questions about how you could theoretically cheat at the game without actually cheating and ending the game. So most of the schemes that Ciel uses to get ahead in the tournament are thanks to their help. Number 71. The third Black Butler musical was titled Licorice That Blazes the Earth, which is taken from the quote by Vincent, "Anne's red hair is truly beautiful, the color of licorice, a color that blazes the earth," as this musical was adapting the Red Butler arc. Number 72. Yana is a big fan of tomboy characters with shorter hair. However, because the series takes place in the Victorian era, and women with short hair would be seen as weird during that time period, she hasn't been able to introduce them very often. She even wanted to give Doll shorter hair. However, when it was decided she would have scars on her face, she felt her hair needed to be longer to hide them. While not confirmed, this could be why Yana created Ada with shorter hair and facial scars, as a way of reinventing Doll's original character design and finally introducing a true tomboy character. Number 73. As far as character height goes, Yana doesn't give most of her characters official measurements, as she uses a special unit of measurement to draw them, which is exactly 1 Sebastian, as Sebastian measures 186 centimeters or 6 foot 1 inch in height. So she simply goes about saying, "This character I'm currently drawing is about this tall compared to 1 Sebastian," so she always forgets their actual measurements and instead chooses not to label them. Number 74. In the first season of the anime, It was a bit of a running gag for Grelle to talk about ending their own life pretty frequently. As it turns out, it was later revealed in the manga that someone becomes a Grim Reaper after ending their own life as a form of punishment. So on pure coincidence, this running gag was more than just a dark joke, and was actually unintentional foreshadowing. Number 75. The game that Klaus gives to Ciel in Chapter 1 is called Mouse 3 by Ninkyodo, noting that it was difficult to obtain. This is a reference to the Nintendo Earthbound game, Mother 3, which was never released outside of Japan to further the reference. This small reference would lead to debatably the biggest theory within the Black Butler fandom, which is known as the Mother 3 theory. The entire theory could be a video essay in itself with how deep it goes, so if you're intrigued, I highly recommend you read up on this theory yourself. But the basic idea of the theory is that the entire story of Black Butler, from the events that transpire, the characters themselves, and even the timeline, are all directly paralleled to the events that take place within Mother 3. And there's a lot of potential evidence to support it. Like I said, this theory is a deep rabbit hole that might just transform your entire perception of the series, so proceed with caution when looking into it. Number 76. Growing up as an only child, Yana adores the relationship between Edward and Elizabeth, and loves depicting the two of them together. After the reveal during the luxury liner arc that Elizabeth is actually a fencing prodigy, Yana really wanted to explore the backstory between Edward and Elizabeth's relationship, as she imagined that Elizabeth being so good at fencing, while Edward was not, would create a very interesting dynamic within their relationship. She was eventually able to briefly touch on this backstory in Chapter 77, but due to page limits, she wasn't able to depict as much of their story as she wanted to. Their relationship has further been explored in some of the more recent arcs, but Yana still wishes she could make an entire episode specifically about their relationship in the future. Number 77. The character John Brown is based on Queen Victoria's real-life servant of the same name, who was not only a favorite of hers, but also the subject of major speculation regarding their relationship. As although the reports are up for debate, Queen Victoria allegedly even had a secret marriage to John Brown in the years following Albert's death. Additionally, since the real John Brown was Scottish, Yana wanted to design him with a kilt, but decided against it thinking it would be too daring. Number 78. Vincent was born on June 13th of 1851, and his mother Claudia died on July 13th of 1866. What these two dates share in common is that both of them took place on Friday the 13th. Although it's likely just a coincidence, this could symbolize both of their untimely fates, as Friday the 13th is historically considered unlucky. Number 79. While you might think that Sebastian is Grelle's main love interest, you'd be mistaken, as according to Yana, Grelle is actually all about William. Grelle views Sebastian as more of an idol, in the sense that her relationship with him is completely parasocial, because everybody loves Sebastian, therefore Grelle could never really expect him to love her back. And on the off chance he did, she would lose all interest in him as a result. So for any Grelle and Sebastian shippers out there, I hate to inform you that it simply wouldn't work out. Number 80. The ghosts of Edward V and Richard from Season 1 of the anime are based on the real-life figures King Edward V of England and his younger brother, Richard of Shrewsbury, Duke of York. Their real-life counterparts disappeared shortly after Richard III claimed the two boys were illegitimate heirs and took reign of the throne in their stead, having both of them sent to the Tower of London where they mysteriously disappeared out of the blue not long after. While their fate is still unknown, it's widely suspected that Richard III had them murdered in secret to further secure his right to the throne. Number 81. The Undertaker's appearance is actually based on a character from a pirate manga that Yana was developing before she went forward with the idea of Black Butler. This character was meant to be the protagonist, but any other information about this scrapped concept was never revealed to the public. Number 82. In addition to the last fact, in regards to the Undertaker's appearance, Yana has stated that the Undertaker is meant to be the most beautiful man in Black Butler. As during the production of Season 1 of the anime, Yana met with the voice actor for the Undertaker, Junichi Suabe. He asked Yana what the Undertaker's face looked like, to which Yana revealed to him that the Undertaker is actually very, very beautiful. The most beautiful man in Black Butler, in fact, and the Undertaker was going to be playing a very important role later on in the series. To which Junichi replied, "Seriously? But he slobbers!" Anyway, I'm looking forward to playing Undertaker when he enters his handsome mode someday. 9 years later, with the release of Book of the Atlantic, Junichi finally got to do just that. Number 83. Although Snake has dozens of snakes at his disposal, we only know the names of 10 of them. It was widely theorized that all of the snakes were named after various authors and poets from the Victorian era, and this theory ended up being confirmed in some of the most recent chapters, as Jumbo was shown naming the snakes in a flashback of Snake's past. As far as who they're named after, Emily was named after Emily Bronte, Goethe was named after Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Webster was named after John Webster, Jonathan was named after Jonathan Swift, Wordsworth was named after William Wordsworth, Keats was named after John Keats, Donne was named after John Donne, Bronte was likely also named after Emily Bronte, or perhaps her sisters Charlotte or Anne. And finally, Oscar and Wilde were named after Oscar Wilde. Additionally, in the anime, each of the snakes talk through Snake with a different accent and tone to differentiate them. Number 84. Because he needs to wear an eye patch, Ciel has trouble with depth perception. Number 85. Out of all the characters, Lau is the one that went through the most changes and development during the early stages of the series. The reason for this is all thanks to Lau's voice actor from the anime, Koji Yusa. As originally, Lau was supposed to be a very unimportant character, who would have only appeared briefly within the manga. However, after Yana and Mr. K saw Koji's performance as Lau within the anime, they realized that Lau was actually a lot more interesting than they originally thought, as in their opinion, he didn't have much of a personality. But after seeing the personality that Koji gave Lau, they completely reinvented his character and made him much more important to the narrative based on Koji's performance. So without Koji, we wouldn't have the Lau that we have today. Number 86. Speaking of characters being inspired by their respective voice actors, Tanaka was modeled after his late voice actor, Shunji Fujimura, as Yana had admired him since she was little. So when Shunji ended up voicing Tanaka himself in the anime, she was ecstatic. When she first got to meet Shunji, she even told him that Tanaka was modeled after him, to which he replied, "He's modeled after me? I'm honored. I must tell you though, I've got more hair than him." After his unfortunate passing in 2015, Yana went on to comment that Black Butler wouldn't be what it is today without Shunji's contribution to the series. Number 87. The character Paula, who is a maid of the Midford household, was actually introduced in the anime way before her introduction in the manga, making her the only anime original character that would later become canon within the manga. Number 88. Baron Kelvin's real name is apparently Thomas McKinley, as his full name was shown briefly in his Grim Reaper file within the anime, whereas it was never revealed within the manga. Additionally, Yana has mentioned in the past that she worked really hard to flesh out the Baron's backstory, but when the circus arc was releasing, fans only cared about Vincent and Diedrich, and completely ignored the Baron as a result. Number 89. The second Black Butler musical, The Most Beautiful Death in the World, is an original story that features two original Grim Reaper characters named Eric Slingby and Alan Humphreys. While the characters weren't created by Yana, she did design them for the musical. The reason I'm bringing up these two characters is because while they're both technically non-canon, they've since kind of become canon characters since their initial debut, as they made a cameo in one of the OVAs, and now have even been featured in flashbacks within the manga, implying that maybe The Most Beautiful Death in the World is canon after all. Number 90. Yana has her own official merch shop called Black Label, which sells merch of all kinds based on the series, all of which is designed directly by Yana herself. If you're a big fan of the series and didn't know about this, I highly recommend you check it out. Number 91. The series has also had its own limited time cafe experience called the Funtum Cafe, featuring many Black Butler related foods and desserts, along with more exclusive merch designed by Yana herself. As far as I could tell with my research, the latest run of the Funtum Cafe took place for Halloween of 2018, so hopefully with the release of Season 4, we'll be seeing another cafe run in the near future. Number 92. In addition to the last two facts, Yana also got to design many of the costumes used in the various Black Butler musical plays. And although she doesn't get much say in what happens during the stories of these musicals, she's the reason Black Butler ever got a stage play in the first place. As back in high school, Yana was a member of her school's drama club, and participated in multiple plays of her own. So when Black Butler first got serialized, she took Mr. K to a stage play of the manga, Prince of Tennis, to show him the appeal of stage plays, in case they ever received received an offer for a stage adaptation. So when Square Enix did receive an offer for the first Black Butler musical, fully expecting them to decline it, Mr. K accepted it immediately, and the rest is history. Number 93. In Chapter 81, you might have noticed that Charles Phipps has a chicken resting on his shoulder or head in the various panels featuring him. This is actually the chick that hatched from his Easter egg back in Chapter 66, and as it turns out, he kept the chick and raised it into a full-blown chicken that now acts as his companion. Number 94. When The Undertaker was revealed to be the main antagonist in Chapter 59, it was also revealed that he wields various sotoba in battle. For those who don't know, sotoba are strips of wood that are inscribed with information found at many Japanese cemeteries. The interesting thing to note about this would be that Undertaker's use of these sotoba were foreshadowed way before this reveal, but you had to look in some rather specific places to spot them. As in the extras of Volume 2, during the Downstairs with Black Butler segment, Undertaker can be seen with sotoba, 4 years before this reveal would happen in the manga. And on the cover of the 4th DVD volume release of Season 1 of the anime, sotoba can be seen slipping out of Undertaker's outfit, once again foreshadowing their importance years before this reveal would happen in the manga. Number 95. It's no secret that Ciel and Elizabeth are engaged to be married at a later age, but one aspect you might have forgotten is that the two of them are closely related, being first cousins. While the concept of marrying family members is utterly abhorrent in modern times, this was actually a very common practice in 19th century England. It was initially very common among royals, as royalty was believed to have better blood than the lower classes, and to keep the bloodline pure, they often married within the family. Even Queen Victoria married her first cousin Albert, for example. But the practice later became more common within the middle and lower classes as well, mainly being arranged marriages for economic purposes. So the decision to make Elizabeth Ciel's cousin and his betrothed was likely purposely chosen to illustrate that outdated practice after learning about it. Number 96. While it's never been explicitly confirmed, it's widely believed that Grelle gets the name Sutcliffe from the real-life serial killer Peter Sutcliffe, who was dubbed the Yorkshire Ripper, as an allusion to Jack the Ripper due to the similarity of their crimes. Being that Grelle is half of Jack the Ripper within the series and was inspired by Madame Red, who is Jack the Ripper, this namesake would make sense to further allude to their connection. Number 97. In terms of what message Yana hopes to convey through Black Butler, she claims it's that the idea of justice varies from person to person. Every character has their own sense of justice, which is just as true in the real world. It's very important to stand firm in what you believe is right. Even so, you shouldn't try to force anyone who thinks differently to follow your beliefs. Number 98. This fact is a bit of a major spoiler if you're not caught up to the manga, so make sure to skip to this time code to avoid it. So, in recent years we've learned that Ciel is not actually Ciel. Instead, they are Ciel's unnamed twin brother who assumed Ciel's identity upon their sacrifice, only for Undertaker to bring the real Ciel back through their experiments of life after death. So as far as our Ciel's name goes, the only thing we know about their true identity is that their mother Rachel named both twins, but without any concrete evidence, fans have come up with multiple theories on what their name could actually be. Some speculate their name is Sirius, based on the fact that the real Ciel, who was previously referred to as Lord Sirius, corrected someone by saying Lord Sirius is their brother. Although, in my opinion, I think Ciel was referring to the fact that they framed their brother as Lord Sirius, rather than actually insinuating that is his name, while others have speculated his name to be Rosier, or one of his previously unused concept names like Aster. Either way, we have yet to confirm anything. So here's what I want to ask you guys. What do you think our Ciel's real name is, and what brought you to that conclusion? Make sure to leave your comment below. I'm genuinely curious. Number 99. Over the course of Black Butler's serialization, Yana has considered making multiple spin-off series that are a lot more lighthearted. Examples being a gourmet manga featuring the chefs of the Grim Reaper Dispatch headquarters, a gourmet manga where Agni makes curry and Sebastian makes sweets, and also a manga where the various servants of the Phantom Hive household make small discoveries. However, she decided to scrap all of these spin-offs, mainly because anytime she would start to actually develop them, they would end up becoming ominous and dark after only a few chapters. Number 100. In terms of where the Black Butler manga is at right now in 2024, the past few years have been a little slow, with many of the monthly chapters coming out having only a small number of pages compared to how many they used to have. So this begs the question, why is that? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. These days, Yana is extremely busy, and while she's still very dedicated to Black Butler and everything associated with it, she's taken on a new project in recent years that takes up the vast majority of her time. That project being Disney's Twisted Wonderland, which is an extremely popular mobile game in Japan and also now in North America, with Yana serving as the game's primary creative director, taking on the writing of the entire story, creation of all the characters and their designs, and overall creating the whole concept from the ground up, with the basic concept being that your character is transported through a magic mirror to Night Raven College, where they search for a way home while being acquainted with the various students in the 7 different dormitories, with all of the characters being based on various Disney villains in one way or another. As creative director and essentially bringing everything about the game to life, with Disney's strict guidelines for their IPs on top of that, it's safe to say Yana has got her hands full. On top of continuing Black Butler and assisting with its various adaptations over the years, it's perfectly reasonable that chapters have needed to be a little bit shorter so that she can keep up with all of her work. Especially when you learn that Twisted Wonderland has been described by Yana as essentially her dream project, which also now has its own manga with an anime adaptation announcement. You just can't help but cheer her on and be understanding that Black Butler is no longer her only priority. And with the amount of series out there that go on indefinite hiatus for much, much less than that, I think we should all be grateful we're still getting Black Butler at all. And with that, it's additionally speculated that the current arc of Black Butler is leading up to the final arc, so it's only a matter of time before the series is complete. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, number 101. For the final fact, this one is going to be a bit personal. So back in 2019, I went to an anime convention up in Minneapolis with a couple friends of mine, and upon looking at what panels were available to attend that day, I noticed a YouTuber by the name of CDogVA was hosting a panel called How to Be an Anime YouTuber. At the time, I really wasn't aware of what CDog was all about, but I had come across his name numerous times in the YouTube anime community, and having already been an established anime YouTuber for 3 years at that point myself, curiosity got the best of me, so I decided to attend the panel just to see what advice he would give other people. And I gotta say, his presentation was very well done. He gave pretty much all the advice I would have genuinely given somebody, so he earned a lot of respect from me that day. But during the presentation, he went through his various analytics as well, and when it came to his demographics, I noticed that his male to female audience ratio was like 30% male and 70% female, whereas my demographics were like the exact opposite. So at the end of the panel, he held a question and answer segment with those of us in the audience, and I decided to raise my hand and ask him his advice on acquiring more of a female audience. To which he paused, chuckled, and said, "Make videos about Black Butler." So here I am, 5 years later, finally taking his advice and putting it to the test with a Black Butler video of my own, to truly become one hell of an anime YouTuber. But there you have it, everybody, 101 facts about Black Butler. I spent an absurd amount of time with the research and editing for this one, so if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, make sure to drop a like if you haven't already. While you're at it, be sure to comment which series you'd like to learn 101 facts about next, and subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss it. I've always got a ton of projects cooking in the background, so please stay tuned. And in the meantime, you can always follow my various social media in the description to keep up with the channel, or hang out with me on twitch.tv/2spookster during some live streams. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon with the next video.
Get away!